Hi there. Today we have an interesting guest talking about a topic that some people might love or hate or be appalled by even. We will be talking about running with Jared Broughton. He is a visually impaired professional running coach. So it's such an interesting balance to have someone who is passionate about running, who has achieved and run and really pushed himself in the running world, and yet someone who has challenges when it comes to running, being visually impaired, being on the scale of not fully blind, but also having some limitations to his abilities. And we get into so many interesting conversations with Jared. We obviously talk about running and why is running good and why people should run. We talk about resilience. We talk about high performance. We talk about challenging yourself, but we also talk about the limits that our genes bring and about nutrition and about anything and everything related to having more life in our life when it comes to running. So sit back, relax, and I hope you will enjoy this conversation about running.
Before we carry on with our conversation and our guest, here's a little reminder about our new Patreon account. You can find us at Into Your Life. It is a place where we share the gold nuggets. And if you're a regular listener to our podcast, you will know that we have some amazing gold nuggets that our guests share. And we will be putting those gold nuggets will be only available on the Patreon account from now on. And this is a place where we want to give you more, where we want to share with you more. And Lenka and I are going to have more conversations in Patreon so that you can get to know us a little bit better, maybe even ask us questions. So we are building this as a community, and by you signing up, you will become part of that wonderful community and make the place better because you are there.
Hello and welcome. Today we have another fantastic guest here with us. We have Jared Broughton with us here, and we are going to be talking about running. But as always, we love our guests to introduce themselves properly. We never do it for justice. So, hi, Jared. Tell us a bit more about yourself. Please introduce yourself to the community and what can people learn from you?
Yes, so I'm Jared. I'm from Canada. I'm 35, just turned 35, just less than 2 weeks ago. I'm an expert in running, and I've been running for 17 years, and I'm visually impaired. And I'm a running coach on the side. That's kind of my passion that I want to pass along my message to spread the word and exposure. And I work for the government full time until I'm able to take this all in, go all in on the running passion.
You said that you're a running expert, and that really kind of triggered me in a good way to want to know a bit more like who is a running expert? Obviously, it's someone who runs a lot, but what else like a running expert knows and cares about and does on a daily basis?
Oh, just I'd say like an expert that has been there, done that, done comprehensive research, done market research, someone that talks the talk, talks the walk, and just literally lives and breathes it, and is a student of the sport. That, in my opinion, is, or professional opinion, is an expert, and that could be applied to anything.
Yeah, absolutely. And when it comes to running, it can be love or hate relationship.
Yeah.
We can have people who are absolutely passionate about running, and there will be people like, oh, I should be running. There are people like want to be running, people who can't or feel that they shouldn't. They have beliefs about that they can't run.
Yeah.
Personally, I used to run. I run occasionally, depends how you look at it. But it took me a long while to change the mindset from like, I run here and there to like, I'm a runner. Like realize like, what are the definitions of a runner? Like, how would you define someone being a runner?
Just someone that makes it a routine, someone that makes it a lifestyle. So think of it as brushing your teeth. We brush our teeth every day, or we should, right? If we see it as a habit in a routine, then you're a runner. You don't necessarily have to be fast. You don't even need to race or be competitive. I think it's just living and breathing it.
Yeah, I love that. I think some of it is really removing the pressure of performance, of any kind of, you have to show up to races, you have to train in a certain way, you have to have a certain body to be classified as a runner. And for me, in a mindset, really helped to be like, I have a body that's capable of running, I run, I'm a runner, that kind of a connotation. I love that you bring in the habit, the
Mhm.
patterns of like showing up and working on it and improving it, because the same could be said about, yes, I know how to write. I write in my journal. Am I a writer?
Mhm.
No, I have not published a book to be a writer, but I publish, let's say, on social media. So I'm a writer. So it's interesting
Exactly.
to already see, coming out some potential limiting beliefs that people can have around their running. Do you come across that a lot with people you work with, like limiting beliefs holding them back?
Well, limiting beliefs in terms of they think they're not fast when they actually are. They don't give themselves enough credit. They think they're not doing enough. Um, they, they don't like to challenge themselves. They think they don't want to challenge the status quo, their own status quo. They enjoy it from a very surface level, which in my view, from doing this for a very long time, if you just stick with the social, you'll end up growing, getting older and you're out of your prime, wishing that you could have reached your potential or you could have done more with it. And so there's like, oh, well, what's the point? I'm the slowest in the group. So we're very hard on ourselves. That's the simplest way I can put it.
Oh yeah, we can be very hard to ourselves.
Yeah.
And in society, obviously, social media,
Yes.
sometimes it's
Right.
not
Right.
necessarily helpful in really making us believe that we can do anything and putting us out there. And then you have the people who really push through any kind of conceived
Yes.
limitation. Like for me, I've watched Russ run the length of Africa, the hardest geezer who literally for the past year and something. For me right now, there's like a ultimate insane person in the realm of running who has
Yeah.
run the whole length of Africa in a year and a bit, running ultra marathon every single day. And that's something that we've never seen done, or at least I've never watched anyone to embark on that. And then we compare it to people who are like, oh, I can't run 100 meters to catch the bus.
Mm.
These kind of perceptions, they are only perceptions. Like, yes, there will be some people with limitations, as we said, on speed and on physical comfort with running. But
Yeah.
as long as we have working limbs, and sometimes even people who don't have working limbs still can run. And I know that this is something close to your heart because
Yes.
also you come into running with a bit of a disability. You
Yeah.
are visually impaired, and it's not something that immediately would be like, oh yeah, running.
The interesting you mentioned that, but see, like being visually impaired, it forces you to be more innovative as to the sport that I get into, right? So because I can't, I'm ruling it out. It's a process of elimination. So I have to net my body or my at least from a visual standpoint filters what I'm able to do from an expert or really dig deep because I refuse to be mediocre. So I'm like, okay, what can I be good at? And when I went to a boarding school for people that were blind, visually impaired, I met a very influential coach that never gave up on me. And I'm like, damn. He said, you have potential in this, don't waste it. And I tried swimming and it wasn't for me. I got to a high level, but I'm just tired of being wet. I was tired of all the chlorine and smelling and all I could go on. But so it was just running made the most sense because it was the one thing I could do independently without being dependent on others. It's like being a caregiver. Like I feel like when I'm being guided, I feel like there's a caregiver, a social worker nearby, like, oh no, don't do that. You're gonna get hurt. And so that's why I have a treadmill. I find routes that are user friendly, like software technology, and so uh, that is part of the reason. So I have a very unique perspective on it because I see it as I don't want to be mediocre at something. I want to be something where, okay, he's limited, but he does have a lot of value and something to add to the world. Not just, ooh, he exercises, big guy, no, I think it goes beyond that. It's like being a good role model. So.
Yeah, and it's interesting that, as you're speaking, I'm thinking, there's so many different routes, pun intended, we can take when it comes to running, because obviously we can talk about more of the lifestyle running, people just
Right.
think a bit of outdoor space to clear their head, to
Yeah.
be out in nature, or to go on a treadmill, have a audiobook podcast in, and they want to just run simply. Or there are
Yeah.
people who then want to run to perform or to accomplish something. So when it comes to, let's start with your journey, and I have the sense I already know that you will be
Mm.
one to perform, but could we talk a bit about, the differences between lifestyle and performance and how that changes for, yourself and for the people you work with?
Well, it's just first you have to know that it's okay, that you're not going to break if you get outside your comfort zone. It's totally normal. I think that's the first step. You have to be okay with being outside your comfort zone. That's step one. If you want to go from well, mediocre or average, just for fun kind of thing, that's to say that performance is not fun, but I think it's just like the idea, how do I get the most out of myself without breaking myself? And it's making it sustainable. That's why it's a lifestyle, right? You don't walk for 6 hours every day. The average person say, you know what, I'm going to get all the exercise I want for all the week or 2 weeks or something like that. Like, okay, God, I don't have to walk for the rest of the 2 weeks. No, you have to break it down into chunks. So baby steps. Then you have to create a plan, a structured plan. That's where coaching comes in. Then there's accountability. So how self-motivated are you? Do you need more external accountability? And if you need external motivation, like maybe you need maybe you need people that push you. And that motivates a lot of people. But if you don't need that competitive side, then it's more about how can I just make it a routine and push myself while having fun at the same time? I think that's the secret ingredient here, is how do I have fun with this? Right. So for example, it's not just, oh, I have to go out for 30 minutes. Okay, well, here's a little simple trick. Have fun with it. Say, okay, I'm going to run 10 houses, walk 10 houses, run 10 houses, walk 10 houses, and do that for as many times you want. I was like, today I did 2 blocks. Today I'm going to do 4 blocks. And just something as simple as that, it forces you to be like, okay, it gives a little bit of a spice. It makes the process a little bit more enjoyable. But if you're not goal oriented, then at least it forces you to enjoy the day-to-day stuff, just like our other routines. Work, right? We have to work. But here's the big takeaway message here is you don't have to run, you get to run. Because there are people that are in wheelchairs that would die to even walk to begin with, or just be on their 2 feet. So I think like it puts a lot of perspective, because I'm not sure if you guys know Terry Fox. Have you ever heard of Terry Fox? Yes. Well, he's my idol, right? He believed in something so powerfully, he gave up everything for it. Like, if he can do it, we can do it. Like that was some pretty powerful stuff what he did. And not just, even if you remove the cancer research and all that, his initiative and his passion, but he was stubborn in a very positive way that a lot of people to this day, he's a leader to this day, because he was so determined to leave a mark that was his why. That's what kept him going. And it wasn't about performance. He didn't care about performance. He just made a routine. He wanted to run across Canada, and he would have done anything to do it because he had a big why to it. So it's all about the why. Why are you doing it? That's the moral of it. Like, why are you doing it? Are you doing it for health? Are you there to impress your spouse? Are you there to make your colleagues proud? Are you doing it if you have kids, are you there to be a good role model to your kids? And the bigger that why, it'll never feel like a chore. I think that's the problem, is that we're cleaning. Most people think cleaning is a chore. So if we unassociate cleaning like running, then it becomes naturally more enjoyable, and that can apply to every sport. So
I love that you're bringing the joy, the fun, the finding, what motivates you in there.
yeah, yeah.
Mindset is absolutely a huge part of, running, pursuing any kind of a goal and pursuing any improvement and high performance. But also, what I hear you talk a lot about is building resilience, because when we do something like this, it's not always easy. Like even if we have this vision and we have this goal, and it could be small or big, it doesn't matter. But there always will be obstacles. There always will be
Yes.
challenges. It can be the
Yep.
small mundane things. It can be the day where we wake up and we just don't feel right. There can be some genuinely big milestones, things standing in our way. And I can hear already this message of resilience coming through.
Yes.
So
Yeah. I'm just, like I'm reiterating, like I'm like, I'm reciprocating. Yes, 100%. I think that's right. Like, I'm all about the resilience thing. Like redemption and resilience are like my two big words bouncing around in my head all the time.
and how do they interplay? That's interesting that it's resilient and what did you say?
Redemption.
Redemption.
So,
How do they work?
well, no, think of it like this. If, um, let's say you've been, I'm trying to like bring it down to like someone that's not as serious about it. Let's say like you have a friend, you have a friend in the neighborhood, she's your best friend, and you want to beat her. Like you have that competitive bug in you, like that childhood memory it's coming out of you, and you're like, I'm gonna beat her today. We're gonna run around the park. Whoever goes around the whole park first wins. You lost. We're like, oh, I'm gonna beat her next time. And it was just the fact that it didn't have to be with her or him. It was the fact that you were able to beat that time for yourself was personal redemption. It wasn't redemption for someone else. It was like, I got to prove myself wrong, or I got to try it again. Like that opportunity to try again is pretty powerful stuff. And that's more internal, right? Like no one's going to make you do redemption. No one's hand holding you and saying, okay, time for redemption now. But resilience is more of like an aspiration, like, okay, I want to be able to say that I can endure pain, I can endure discomfort, I can go longer than I did before. And a lot of people are I'm not a thrill seeker, but I think that's why people do a lot of bungee jumping, cave exploration, because it gives them they're adrenaline junkies. But you could say we're like what we do as runners is like low form of that because it's the adrenaline, the runner's high, which we can talk about later. But I think it's the resilience of how can I push that limit to see how I can get the most out of my body, because it only gets harder as we get older. So I think there's something there. It's almost like by me being resilient, I'm making others proud, and I'm 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 giving everything out of me, I guess. That's in layman's terms.
I I love how you've explained this redemption and the resilience and
Yeah.
bringing that into your running. You mentioned that you are visually impaired. Are
Yeah.
you 100% visually impaired, or can you see light and dark?
Uh, uh, so basically I can't see very far. I can't read body language. So when the pandemic happened and everyone's online, that was very hard. That was very interesting. So I have to rely so much on verbal communication. So I can't tell when someone rolls their eyes. I can't see very far. I can't drive. I have no depth perception. So like potholes, curbs. Some curbs are not obvious, or color distinction, shade versus bright. So I'm light sensitive. So all those things combined make it interesting. So it's like me being resilient, that I can be better at this compared to other people, is a sense of like resilience. Like I'm having something to prove, and it's very rewarding at the end of the day, because it's like even without having to be world class, I don't necessarily have to be the fastest in order to show resilience,
Mhm.
because it's like, well, there's so many things. Like, for example, I like to be able to disclose this. I've kind of learned this about myself recently. If I couldn't see, my life would be so different. I would probably be a baseball player, a tennis player, or a badminton player, because I just love those kind of sports, and I just can't play it. And it just sucks. So I try to compensate emotionally or physically, obviously, with something that is the closest equivalent to that, which is exercise, which, we all know. I don't need to sell anyone here about the importance of exercise. So, yeah. And that's so it's like, okay, I'm not going to make any excuses for myself. I'm visually impaired. Everyone needs exercise, regardless of who you are. So I think that's where I stand on that, at least on my visual limitation.
So just to help us who are not visually impaired, but I have seen runners who have some visually impaired runners who have I'm not sure what they're called, but they have somebody running with
Guide
them.
runner. Yeah.
Guide runner, yes, thank you. So, but you said that you have your places that you run.
Yeah.
How do you use anything to help you, or do you just know your route off by heart that you can run? So I'm thinking as a seeing person, and I know I'm a lot of our listeners are seeing people, and it's okay running. I get the running. I get the I'm not a runner, but I get the joy of running, and I've heard about the runner's high. But
Yes.
I look at running as something that you need to see to be able to do. Can you just help us to understand how you run with not being able to see?
Yeah, so I have a photographic memory. So like for example, like a little side note, I have a really good memory, so I can memorize movies and TV shows or things that people have said years ago, or like just I'm really good at telling stories. So I just have a very good memory. And so as a result of that lovely gift, other than my gift of making people feel very good about themselves, hence why coaching made a good logical sense for me to try to do is what I noticed is I memorize routes. So on the memory piece, I memorize my routes. I memorize every single pothole. So it sounds really monotonous. It sounds really boring, but I just repeat the same route over and over again. Right. And over time, my brain just remembers. It's not even visual anymore. So I don't have to look at the ground. So I'm like, I prefer to look straight because mechanically it's good for your neck, obviously can cause back problems and neck problems. So it's best to, if I can create a route where I'm not so focused on the footing, it's good for my back, and it's good for, well, zoning out. Everyone talks about Zen and zoning out. I think it's a very underrated subject. If you take away even the runner's high component of all the endorphins, if you're able to zone out, your brain just kind of naturally recharges on its own. Right? People think running takes away energy, but it actually gives me energy. But the less I have to focus on the footing, the less mentally tired I am at the end. Right? I shouldn't have to sacrifice more of my mental concentration so that my work suffers or everything else suffers in relationships just because I have to focus more on my footing. That's why I don't do trail running. So that's a very good distinction. So that's why I don't do trail running by myself. So like again, there's a limitation. So I can't do trail running, or at least I don't feel safe enough. I don't feel confident enough in my abilities to do that. It's not worth their injury. It's not worth getting injured over. So I rely on flat surface. I don't care what the topography is. So like elevation changes, downhill, uphill, it doesn't matter. It's just the flatness. So I will try really hard to try to do reliable routes that don't have potholes or less curbs or less lights. There's certain things I can't avoid, but I think it's just adapting and adjusting my pace or going slower. So those are little tricks. And then obviously I have my treadmill. And then, so most of the time during the winter, so the winter is the hardest. I'm looking down most of the time because I'm looking for black ice, right? Black ice, you can't see. It's camouflaged with the cement, for example. And then the snow, snow is very obvious to see. I definitely need my sunglasses for that because of the glare from the sun. And so that's where I still use my same model of repeating the same route over and again because I sort of know where the potholes are, even if the snow's covering it. So I don't have to overthink it, but it's not as enjoyable though. That's for sure. That's why my treadmill is my savior.
So you've got the photographic memory. So the first time you do a route, would you walk it first with somebody, or would you run it but really concentrate
Really
on
slow.
footing?
That's a good question. I like that. I can see that. I would probably go on a walk with my wife or something like that, or a friend. Uh, and be like, oh, it'd be just sometimes I would discover a new route just because it was like random, like coincidence, like, there's a side road over there. That's neat, or I'm gonna try running that. Doesn't look that bad. I would walk it just to kind of see a sense if there's any hazardous not materials, but hazardous barriers, potholes, is this user friendly. I like to say user friendly for those with any kind of disability or physical limitations, like, you know, wheelchairs and stuff like that. Because as soon as because if I think to myself, sometimes I think, what would a wheelchair person, if a wheelchair person can't do this, then it's something for me to be more aware of, because I need to be able to jump up. Like I need to be able to jump off a curb to know when it is and perceive that reaction time. So my reaction time has to match uh how to explain this. It has to match where I'm running to. So I have to memorize. I memorize my reaction time. Okay, 3, 2, 1, jump. Right. That's when I would jump up if it's not just a completely flat course or it's just not like a dirt trail. I prefer dirt trails. It's better on the knees anyway, so that's another subject. But most of the time I'm on cement because I feel the safest on there, and because I can just do my thing and zone out and let the magic unfold.
You already touched
Okay.
on one thing now, if I can just jump in, and that's kind of injury prevention. You know,
Yeah.
obviously for you, it's specifically with being able to map out and predict what's going to happen under.
Predict. Yeah, that's a good word.
But for anyone exercising and running, any kind of exercise has its challenges. And you already mentioned like sometimes like the stiff neck, but also it can be the knees. Are there any kind of additional exercises, workouts, movements that when it comes to specifically to running that you recommend your clients that you do
Yeah.
that makes sense to add to the mix for obviously improving the results, improving the endurance, improving the impact, but also for injury prevention and overall like health?
Oh, that's such a good one. So just something as simple as uh cooling down. So so let's say you're done your run, doesn't matter how long it is. So you're done, like less is more. So you don't have to run slower necessarily. I mean, depends on your level, right? Because after my main workout, like the hard stuff, I just do a nice slow jog, right? But for beginners, I'd recommend just walking, right? Don't force it. Feel relaxed. Walk. Exercise wise, dynamic warm up. So you could do arm circles. You could do there's knee drives. You can do leg swings where you're swinging your leg back like a pendulum, swing your leg back and forth, wake up the hips. You could do it laterally, so across your body, pendulum across your body, so laterally. Um, and then I'm just trying to be very basic here. Something as simple as another good running coach and friend that I told me, it's called century squats. So this is going to be really good for your audience. So even for you ladies. So 20 regular body squats, 20 lunges on the left leg, 20 lunges on the right leg, 20 lunges single leg on the left, and then 20 single legs on the right. Something that simple. Or one of my favorite exercises, if you want to get a good burn, like a really good burn, an isometric wall sit. So like we're sitting right now and we're just enjoying ourselves here having coffee. But instead of actually sitting down, your support is your back. So you're putting all your quads are supporting your ass, basically. So it creates quite a burn. You're working your quads and your glutes and you'll feel it. It's one of my favorite exercises. Those are my go-to exercises. And then avoiding injury, calf raises. So for people have bad knees, you can like do like a shuffle where you're like shuffling with your calves. So like baby toe. So baby toes. So walk on your baby toes to wake up the calves, and then the opposite, walk on your heels to wake up your shins. So I think I'm being comprehensive here to wake up the entire body to avoid injury. I could go more in depth, but it's not really the best place for that.
Well, and absolutely, we will signpost people to where the best place is to
Yeah,
follow you and to learn more. But this is so
exactly.
helpful just to get some snippets. One of my favorite exercises that is often recommended as prevention for knee pain or any kind of is
Yeah,
walking backwards, which again, talking about
right.
challenges of navigating in a system, walking backwards is such a great exercise. But
I didn't think of that. I don't normally preach that. I didn't think of that too. I know there are people that do it on their treadmill, but for me, it's more of a visual hazard because like I'm always worried of hitting myself. So I have a good valid excuse, but I can see where you're coming from. So
It's a hazard for anyone if you do it outside.
yeah,
See, on the treadmill, it makes more sense. It's more controlled. You can change the
yes, yeah.
elevation and you can practice. But I just like to do it outside and then watch the kids point at their mommy to be like, look at this crazy lady. She's walking backwards. What's wrong? Hilarious.
But what I have done when I used to have do a lot of manual labor is I used to like set up weddings and stuff like that. And I would pull a cart backwards, and oh my God, the burn I got from my hamstring. Like when you're pulling a big cart of tables, because you're going against your body weight, right? So you're pulling backwards and you get a nice burn in the glutes and you're working your hamstrings. So it's pretty good. Yeah. Yeah, I
Oh,
can
yeah.
see I totally see it.
That takes me back to the work on the farm. I grew up on a farm.
Yes.
I spent the last couple of years there. So all sorts of options of pushing and pulling the wheelbarrow to figure out uphill, downhill, what's the best for the body. I get you.
Yes. So yeah, I that's I what would you say that what has prevented you? I think you said you used to run, but you don't anymore. I just want to remember the context behind that.
It's just a lifestyle changed. I used to run a lot for bit of a fitness exercise, a lot for the mindfulness, for just cleaning my mind. I
Cleaning your
switched
mind.
now to between gym and doing more of the strength
Hmm.
exercises because again the science points that women of a certain age going to a
Oh
certain
yeah, yeah, yes.
strength is definitely where. So I've moved away more from any kind of attempted endurance. I still like swimming. I don't mind the wet water. I don't mind that. So I still, more than running, I casually swim. And
Yeah.
for mind cleaning stuff, I switched to yoga and meditation. So it was just my life has changed, my preferences has changed. I still have my running shoes every now and then. I still hit and go out running, but I hate running on a treadmill. I like being
Mm.
outdoors, but the challenge where I am right now, I'm always, as a runner, I've always been the one I cannot commute for running. I cannot be asked to go somewhere and then run and come back. I have to be the one. I leave the door, I run, I come back. That's the only way I'm willing to run. But right now, I live in a city center, and even if I run in a park, there's plenty of people, and I don't like people. So that's one of the many reasons. If I lived somewhere more quaint, where I
Okay.
would have a little place, and I used to do when I lived in Cambridge, I used to have a beautiful river route where not so many people, still people there, but like more organized people who were there pretty much just running, cycling single file
Yeah.
with beautiful sights. But now in the city, with just people wobbling around, kids being everywhere, just that's not relaxing for me. So that's mostly my reason for not running right now.
Oh, I can see that. So on that lovely note, something that's been really big in research lately is that you ladies are going to love this. Very good for knowing your audience is that there's a lot of emphasis for women to do strength training. I just wanted to add that because you asked about strength training. Women, so for the statistically, every decade after the age of 30, so actually, well, it kind of starts at 40. So after that, you've kind of almost reached your peak, depending on when you started running or strength training, to beat on your maximum muscular capacity. So let's say you reached as strong as you possibly be. After the age of 40, you lose 10% of your muscle mass, no matter what you do. There's nothing you can do to prevent that. It's human condition. Okay, great. But the bad news though, other than the obvious, is that women lose at 15% of their muscular capacity every decade. So every 10 years, we lose 10% for men, 15% for women. So that's why the science is showing that women strength training is even more important than it is for men because we can hang on to more muscle because of testosterone. So I would love to hear your thoughts on that and like, is that any, oh my God, that's a red flag. Oh my God, I didn't know that. We need to do strength training now. So yeah, so running can only do so much. There's limitation to it because at the end of the day, it's cardio, right? I mean, unless you're doing a bunch of hills, which in technically it's resistance training. So if you want to run, if you want to incorporate strength training or a big bang for your buck, do some hills. But yeah, I digress.
Yeah, this is definitely a topic. Obviously, being two women running a podcast, being of,
Yeah.
knowing that our audience will be interesting topics. We did have people talking about both weight control, hormones, perimenopause, menopause. So this is something we're absolutely into. Definitely the point of, strength training. We need all of it though. We need, I am the absolute advocate of like health span and lifespan and wanting
Okay.
to be as fit and healthy and strong for as long as I possibly can, not necessarily caring about, the body composition, whatever, but it's the health. So for me, I'm obsessed with any kind of a research or influencers or educators that come out and tell me you need to be doing these things to be as healthy as you can now,
Yeah.
to be as
Yeah.
healthy, as active as you can in your, 80s, 90s, because my vision is to be 80, 90-year-old and still climbing mountains because I love hiking.
Really?
I love hiking, and I've met them. I've met this bunch of ladies in their like good 70s, 80s, just no, 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 easily climbing up a mountain. I'm like, I want to be that. And it's why all my obsession with health and well-being goes to, I know where I'm now. Know where I need to be in the next 5 to 10 years, 5 years
Okay.
before I hit my 40s, and it goes really wrong, really downhill, like biologically through hormonal changes and stuff like that. So definitely the conversation between, do we do cardio? Do we do, zone two
Yeah.
cardio? Do we do endurance? Do we do strength training? Do we do stretching? Do we do,
So much.
there's so much to it.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I don't know. And that's the problem, is that everyone is so different. Um, that's why I have mixed feelings on group programs, because everyone has a different background and different limitations. So I'm a big believer of like I could talk about this debate forever, hard work versus genetics. So some people, like for example, some people are just naturally more competitive. So others will build muscle faster, right? So from like a cardio point of view, you have high responders, you have low responders. So low responder are typically people you really have to push to get in the gym, because no matter how hard they try, it takes forever. It doesn't matter men or women. It takes forever for them to build muscle, because their brain is just like resisting. They're resisting the resistance. They don't want to build muscle. And it's like, as a result, it's just discouraging. They don't want to go to the gym. They would do the bare minimum because genetically they are a low responder to training. And that applies to cardio, that applies to strength. And just like some women are just like girls, I mean, you start younger, but like, why is it that like there's a flexibility thing, and then as we get older we lose that flexibility? Yes, we can prolong the degeneration, but at what point do you kind of say, oh no, it's all in your head? I just, that's why I have like a pet peeve with like certain manifestations, like, oh, if you just put your mind to it, or if you just really focus on it, the only reason you don't have what you want is because you don't like, because it's not important enough to you. Well, then with that logic, we shouldn't age at all, because it would be all about, I mean, nutrition, you have some control of your nutrition, but we can't control our genetics. You can control environmentally, you can turn those on and off. But if someone's reaction to 100-pound squat is going to be a different reaction than someone that does the same thing even at the same age. And so that's where it gets really different, is that you're going to get different responses at different rates. You could give someone the same program. That's why it's like there's too many cookie cutter programs out there, and it bothers me. It's like there's more to coaching and improvement than just following a program, because there's more adjustments that's involved. Not even just because life happens, but there's too many nuances. There are too many things that can go wrong. You can get injured. I'm sore today. Why am I sore? Did I not sleep well? And it's because I had a bad workout, because I didn't sleep well. And so there's so much. There's just so much involved. And that's why I'm a big believer of coaching. Um, and it's because everyone wants to feel powerful. I've never met someone that doesn't want to have energy. That's the beautiful thing about exercise, is exercise is supposed to give you energy. But obviously, the older we get, the harder it is to maintain energy. It's just that's where consistency comes in. If you're consistent, then it doesn't seem like a big undertaking every day. So that's where the magic happens. Death is inevitable. So it's kind of like, how can I increase that. So let's put it this way. Exercise is not about increasing your longevity. It's about increasing your quality of life. So how can I extend the quality of life window? But we have genetically, we can only control our longevity to a certain point. I know people that are runners and died at a very young age. Why is that? Well, it's like, well, did they not want it bad enough? No, it had nothing to do with that. Were they not competitive or performance based? Did they not push their heart? No, it had nothing to do with it. They had a perfectly healthy heart, but they just genetically, everyone's born with a certain number. Like everyone has this designated number. Some people are 80, some people are 90. So it's just the idea of, okay, how can I extend my personal quality of life and not necessarily my longevity because I can't control that. So it's like accepting the things that are out of our control, like yeah, those things. So that's a mouthful.
No, I absolutely love that they were getting into a conversation between like genetics and epigenetics, and we're talking
Yeah.
on the lifespan, but also the health span, that we can't control how long we're gonna live, and
Yes.
we can't change our genes, but we can play around with some of the environment and fine tune some
Yeah.
of those knobs on the genes to then allow for a longer health span. So this, at least for me, this conversation is fascinating. I'm not sure about Natalie because I know that
Yeah.
one is not her bag.
I'd love to hear from Natalie. Yeah.
No, this is a very fascinating question because I used to be very, very active. I loved aerobics. I do squash. I never got into running, but I got into tennis, squash, and aerobics. But as I got older, I noticed the joy of the sort of intense or the cardio type exercises just dropped, and then it became a very much a chore, and then it became a yeah, but you should be doing it to maintain your fitness. And I now prefer the sort of, then I went more into the yoga and the Pilates and the stretching, and now I'm realizing that I'm wanting to slowly bring in more of the a gentle cardio, if that makes sense. But the only time I really enjoyed running is actually on a treadmill.
Yeah.
Whenever I've run outdoors or anything, I've always injured myself. But when I'm on a treadmill, I can actually go into my own space. But outdoors, and I get being outdoors is good and the fresh air and everything else, but it just doesn't, it hasn't worked for me. But if you put me on a treadmill, I'm quite happy to just go into my own bubble, and I can, I love walking. I can walk for hours if I'm in a nice area where I can just, just look at stuff, and I do enjoy walking. So I have noticed over the years the changes in what I'm wanting to do for exercise and what my body's wanting to do for exercise, and how that all's changing. And it'll be interesting to see how that progresses moving forward.
Yeah. So you're constantly trying to listen to your body. You're trying to be more in tuned. And I guess as we age, are you finding it's harder to listen to your body, or it's easier? Because you would think, as we get older, we get wiser, but it seems that things change faster than we consciously realize. What do you think?
I think it's through my body changing. It is very much, what is my body trying to tell me? Because when I was younger, I would push myself to my
Yeah.
absolute limits because I just felt that I should. But I am noticing more and more as I'm going through the changes, is that pushing doesn't work like it used to, and then it's having to be more gentle, do different things. So it's listening to my body in a way that I'm not harming myself, because what worked in my 20s and 30s is not working now. And it's just it's finding that balance, I guess. I mean, for me, I'm very fascinated by food and what we put into our bodies.
Okay, you're on that one. Okay.
So yeah, so mine is sort of what we're putting in, and how we're looking after our bodies, but not so much focused on the exercise, if that makes sense. So it's just different. I think different decades, you just have to do things differently.
Yeah, no, I've even noticed being in my 30s, I don't recover as fast as I was in my 20s. I mean, you could, like you said about nutrition, there may be some protein aspect to it as well, like the building blocks. So there's something to be said there, but you can't, like, if you don't recover as fast, that's the one thing you can't overcome, is that no matter what, we'll just recover slower because our cells are not regenerating as fast as when we're teenagers in our 20s. So there's something to be said there. I guess the idea is that, isn't there limits to nutrition too? Because we become so obsessed about it. We already have to cook in order to get, properly food. And the food companies don't really care about us. They care about the bottom line, right? I find that sad. The things that are expensive are the healthiest, but the things that are the least healthiest are the cheapest. It should be reversed, technically. And that would give people the incentive. Like, do you imagine all these fruits and vegetables were the cheapest things, and just the potential of health that we could have? We could avoid the doctor at all costs. I think that's just, I think that's the key here. But it's, where do you draw that line between being obsessed about nutrition and just being like, okay, I'm going to splurge one day. I feel like a chocolate bar, and should I feel bad about it? Because if we're going to be shaming people just because they went to McDonald's, because I love McDonald's, should I be shamed just because I like McDonald's, but I don't eat it every day? I don't know where that fine line is, because we almost feel like we're invisibly judged for our nutrition's, like it's we're almost judged more for nutrition than we are for exercise. Like, oh, you're McDonald's, you're automatically lazy. Like, what? It's just crazy to me. It's like, I'm not sure if you know what I mean.
Well, isn't it? It's like anything in life is moderation.
Yeah.
It's all or nothing. So by all means, have your McDonald's. For me, it would be a bar of chocolate, not so much
Yeah, there you go.
McDonald's.
See, there you go.
But
Everyone
the
has
thing is, I
their-
think it's in moderation. It's doing things that work, but not, it's not having McDonald's 24/7, but it's not necessarily eating healthy 24/7. It's just eat healthier and enjoy that cake, enjoy that bar of chocolate, enjoy that McDonald's, because otherwise I don't know, it's too depressing then if you can't
Yeah,
have
it is.
those enjoyments or those things that sort of give us the moderation or that treat or something different in our lives. But we've talked a lot about sort of the exercise and the running. Do you mostly work with visually impaired, or do you work with both? Or how do you work when you're helping somebody with the running? And do they come to you from somebody who's never run before and you help them to start off, or have they run and they say, now I want to run a marathon, I want to become more of an endurance runner, and is that where you come in? So I know there's quite a few questions there, but
Yeah.
it's just try and get a feel of how it is that you like to work.
Baseline, I'm actually even just still figuring that. I'm actually in the process of doing a lot of market research right now, to fine tune that. It's been a struggle because we're constantly refining my messaging to find those people, because I'm not interested in working with social recreational runners. Like, there's no problem to solve. Like, okay, let's say Lanka goes out to the park and she's doing her backward walking, and she's really trying to get fit. But if she's doing it socially with other people, there's no problem to solve. She's already solved it. Okay, I'm there for social, problem solved. That was easy. Like, there's no business in that. So the only thing in running is aspirational. Like, it's a nice to have. And so I'm not looking to work with people that are like straight from the couch, or I'm not there to make someone become a runner. That would be more of an in-person kind of endeavor, because I'd have to be calling them. I'd have to be seeing them in person, like, hey, get up, let's do this. I can't do that virtually. It's not possible in this kind of format. And so I see more of working with runners that are feeling frustrated as beginners that want to get a PB, like, or doing their first 5K, we're like, they're into it and they just need some guidance and they need the accountability. And they just need someone that won't give up on them and think highly of them, and just boast them up. That's very easy for me to do. It comes to me very naturally. So that's where my secret sauce is. People that want to challenge themselves to get outside their comfort zone while having fun. I make running more fun because a lot of people are very frustrated by feeling tired. They're getting injured, or they're not getting faster, and they want to be faster than so and so. It'd be like you. It'd be like if you and Natalie were both very serious runners, and you wanted to be faster than Lenka, but it's like I can't get faster than her. Jared, help me. It's like I want to work with those people that actually have some kind of aspiration in their why, whatever that why is.
It's getting them up to the next level,
It
but
pretty
not
much.
the beginner stage, but sort of just helping them improve themselves, or just
Yeah.
to
Just
get better.
just to get better or to be consistent. Like first thing would be first to learn how to be consistent, be good with time management, basic nutrition stuff, how to follow a program, and then the next level will naturally come because I create an environment. This is the way I coach. I don't like to challenge people because they're already challenged doing the exercise. I like to create an environment so that those that are constantly, having motivational issues or feeling discouraged become organically motivated because of the process that they're following. And so they feel encouraged. So therefore they are self-motivating themselves. Feel like, wow, this is so empowering. I'm getting the runners high. I have so much more energy. I'm giving them back energy. They're giving them back that power, that free agency, that we're like, wow, like my body's betrayed me. No, it hasn't. You're just doing it wrong. So it's guidance. There's a lot of guidance involved.
Yeah, no,
There's,
that makes a lot of sense. And I think sometimes, it's all very well just starting to be a recreational runner, but if you want to really push it a little bit more or have a bigger goal in mind, then you're the person to speak to
yes.
move forward.
Yeah.
And we really appreciate your time. I know that you're busy, and we can talk for ages about
Yes.
running and exercise and nutrition and all that. So for our listeners who are listening, or if they're watching us on YouTube, where can people find you? How can people connect with you if they want some Jared wisdom, some Jared guidance?
So you can find me on my website is www.run2potential.com. My handle on Instagram is run2potential. And then you can just find me on Facebook, Jared Broughton. I also have a Facebook running group as well. Yeah, that's how you can find me, really. And then you can email me at run2potential@outlook.com.
Thank you. And we will have all your links
Yeah, of course.
in the description, so people can click on them and hopefully connect with you.
Yeah.
So again, thank you so much, Jared, for your time, for your energy, and just spending it with us and giving us some really useful information, useful advice. And for our listeners, what have you got from today? Are you a runner? Or do you need to go that extra, have that help to go that extra mile? Or are you sitting on a couch and thinking, now's the time? And as Jared said, I get to run, instead of saying I should run, is I get to run. So we would love to know your thoughts on running. Are you a runner, or do you just prefer the exercise and the chilling out and everything? And let us know on our socials, on LinkedIn or Instagram, or even on YouTube. Let us know what you think. And until next time, we'll talk to you soon. Bye.